I'd like to talk about the show command. Almost all show commands are usually run from the privileged exec mode, although a few can be run from user exec mode. Now, if you're outside of these modes, so for example, if I'm in config T, you'll notice that the show commands don't work at all from here. So let's try show run. Well, I get an error message. And so I can use, in this case, do show run, and now I get the running config. But most of the time you'll be running the show commands from privileged exec mode. So here we are. Now let's take a look at some of the show commands that are available to us that might be interesting to you or you might need when you're troubleshooting. I'm going to start by just typing show and then a space, and then the question mark, so we can see the help system. Now, many of these aren't going to have any meaning to you at this point. However, let's point out a few that might be helpful. For example, there's the crypto command, show crypto. So let's go ahead and try that out. Show crypto, and I'm going to do a space and a question mark because I don't think this is the end of the command necessarily. So there's show crypto IPsec, ISA, KMP, key, and map. The only one that you're familiar with at this point is probably key. So let's type key and then another question mark. And now we need the command mypubkey, space and then a question mark. And then RSA. Space and a question mark. Okay, we're out of commands, so now it just says carriage return. So I'll click that, and let's see what I can learn from this show command. Here is the key name, and this is why we had to generate a domain name, because that became the key name. It's the router name plus the domain name that I gave it. And it says key is not exportable, and then we have some encrypted information here about the key that you can't really read, but the things that you might be interested in here are finding out what the key name is, the router name plus the domain name. All right, let's see what else we have. Show question mark. Let me see, flash with a colon after it. This is actually the part of the file system, and this turns out to be the file system, the part of the file system that contains the iOS image itself. So let's take a look at that. Show flash colon, and oh, I have the word show twice there. Let's try that again. Show flash colon, and here you can see a couple of XML files. We're not going to talk about what those are used for right now, but here, this bin file is the actual file of the Internet Network operating system that's being used right now on this router. Okay, let's see what else we have here. We have flash, history, if you're interested in the history of the commands that you've typed. Show history. And here's the history of the commands that I've typed. Let me see. Interfaces. I'm going to talk more about interfaces in a little bit, but let's try this. Show interfaces. And here you can see we go interface one by one. Here is Fast Ethernet 00 and a whole lot of information about it. Let's click the enter button to see more. There's the end of it, and now Fast Ethernet 01, and so on. So you can see about interfaces, and if you wish, you could see information about a specific interface. Show interfaces F01, for example, and then I just get the information about that particular interface. IP, we'll talk more about that in just a few moments, but that is definitely one that you might be interested in looking at more, as well as IP version 6. And then down here we have running config, startup config. You're already familiar with showing the running config and showing the startup config. And one more down here might be version, if you're interested in learning more about the version of this particular router. Show version. And here I have just a whole lot of information about the software version. It's 15.14M4, and Cisco router systems, when it was last compiled, ROM, bootstrap, just a ton of information about this particular router here under show version. And as you can see, if I scroll down here, I can see the device it is. This is a Cisco 2811 and so on. Here's the serial number. So just a ton of information. Now the last one I want to show you is that IP. So I'm going to do show IP and then a space and then a question mark. And you can see here that we have show IP interface. This has to do not with the interface itself, but with the TCP/IP information on that interface. And then later on we'll be looking at show protocols and so on. Let me see, what else might we be interested in under IP? Yeah, right now at this point in your learning, that would be the only one I would say that you might be interested in. So I'm going to type interface and then a space and then a question mark, and now you can see I can show the IP interface about the Ethernet ports, the fast Ethernet ports, the gig Ethernet ports, the serial ports, and then one very, very useful one that you really want to know about is show IP interface brief. And here you can see very briefly in a little table here the IP address that I've got on fast Ethernet 00. If I wanted to know more about that, I might call up just that interface. Show IP interface F00, and now I've got even more information. I've got the internet address, that is to say the IP version 4 address, the broadcast address, a whole bunch of information that you're probably not ready for yet at this point. But there is just about everything I want to know about the IP protocols on this interface.